All right. Well, we've been talking already, so we decided we should probably record this. But we've been talking about semaglutide, and just benefits that we've seen from it, things that you should look out for, kind of thing. So we can kind of recap that. We started because Amanda uses semaglutide and she's seen like an amazing difference with it, for herself. But as we know, like it's not always with just like taking a drug and you just see results and it's magic. Like that's not how it works. So yeah,
Yeah.
tell them about your experience or recap it.
Yeah. And this may come as a surprise to my dog just brought me a bone. You can keep your own bone, buddy. I don't want it. This may come as a surprise to some people that I've been utilizing it, but the cool thing, so I started using it for a couple of reasons. The main one being I've been having, this might be a little TMI, it's not TMI on here. These two ladies know about it. For years, I have been on the brink of pissing my pants. Like, no joke. I've pissed myself in my car multiple times, like getting stuck in traffic. If I have a sip of fluid within like 30 minutes, I have to pee a ton. It's not just like the urge to go, like I actually go. So it's not like a UTI or something like that. This has been going on for years. And when I tell you the horrendous lifestyle impact it has, I haven't, like, I would not want to go to concerts anymore because I need to be like on the edge close to a bathroom because I'd probably go 3 or 4 times over the course of like a 3 hour concert or 2 or 3 hour concert. I know where every single gas station is, and I drive around like to different sites for work. Um, it's really bad. Like it's always been not just like I would to the point where I wouldn't drink water all day because I have to be in my car for work a lot. And I'd have to like pull over on the side of the road and piss on the side of the road like 3 or 4 times a day. And it's like really embarrassing and uncomfortable. I've had so much blood work done. My aldosterone, which is like the number one marker you would look at there, was a little high. Doctors didn't know what to do. Um, I was in the pre-diabetic category just based off of my blood sugar numbers. My A1C is good, but my blood sugar, my blood glucose was always pretty damn high in the morning, like over 100, 95 to 107 usually. Diabetes does run in my family, and my family is not like the people that have it are not even overweight. They just don't produce much insulin. So anyway, my insulin's always out of range low, like in the red low. So the doctors know that there's some kind of issue with shuttling glucose. And so it's just my body's trying to excrete it through my bladder constantly, which is why my blood sugar is always high and my insulin's always low. So my body isn't producing the insulin it needs. So my blood sugar is just, so that it makes sense what's going on, right? So I spoke to a couple like, specialists and within bodybuilding and friends of ours and about like, hey, I know that semaglutide is going around for weight loss, which is great. It's been a diabetes medication for a long time. I don't have diagnosed diabetes, but I could in like 10, 15 years. My insulin gets worse and worse. And I was like, I really want to try this and just see what happens. And yes, of course, appetite suppression's especially for prep, for sure an added benefit. Like I'm not going to sit here and say it's not, it is. And within a week, I was not pissing myself anymore. Like
I
literally
remember when you sent that text message, you're like, oh my God, you guys, this is amazing. And like, it's been a 180 in just like a week. So there's definitely like some people that it works for. And like, you're one of those people.
and it sucks because not sucks, but it's become just like we demonize anabolics. People demonize it like, oh, you just want like an easy way to lose weight. And it's like, I understand that because a lot of people do use it that way. Totally get it. I'm not just like experimenting for fun on myself. Like I have professionals overlooking everything that I'm doing and making sure that, everything is the way it should be. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. But it has been life altering. Even if, like, let's say there was no appetite suppressing capabilities, I wouldn't give a flying fuck. Like, I remember I texted you guys, I was like, I haven't peed in like 5 hours. I went through all my appointments for work and ran all my errands and didn't have to like rush to find 3 bathrooms. I couldn't, but like, I cried. Like I was sitting in my car crying at like, I can just operate now without this going on. Um, and now that I've been on it for a little while, my blood sugar has gone down. It went from high 90s, low 100s to high 70s, low 80s. And I'm eating more than I was before I started taking it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the other point I want to make is the goal when I started taking it was not to lose weight. It happened by nature of it, but not because I dieted. When I started taking it, I was eating like 1950 calories. Within like a month or so, we kept bumping up my food because my weight was dropping like 2 or 3 pounds a week. And that's not what the intention was. Got my calories up to like 24, 2,500, still dropping, eating the most I ever have. And I think what happened is like my body was finally like shuttling glucose and nutrients properly for the first time.
Using it the right way.
Yeah, and I don't even know how long. And so yeah, I was just telling these girls too, like it's improved my digestion. I'm not constipated anymore constantly. I'm not bloated. I'm not having like reactions from foods that I shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, of course, sometimes it happens, but
Right.
my digestion's way more regular. Um, and I feel so much better overall. Like I don't know, I just don't feel so bogged down by food, if that makes sense. Like I don't feel so heavy. I don't feel
That
like,
lethargic like feeling.
yeah,
Mhm.
100%. My weight stabilized where it is now. And it has been here for a few months now. So this is just kind of like, and this is literally the exact composition I had growing up and in college and stuff before my body did some like weird bullshit and things kind of changed and it was fine. But I don't have all these like weird unknown symptoms that we can't really point to one thing, like peeing all the time. Like you guys, my blood sugar would be in the high 90s when I'm 4 weeks out. Like
Mhm.
I haven't even seen a carb in months. I am shredded and my blood sugar is insanely high. Like that's
Yeah. Well, I
even,
remember you said too that because you were when you started like your mini cut, and you said that you weren't going hypo all the time either when you did cardio.
yeah, because like every prep I did, like I'd be
Mm-hmm.
16 out going hypo when I still have like, 20, 25 pounds of body fat to lose. So I'm by no means like super lean at all
Right.
yet.
Going hypo when you shouldn't be going hypo.
Going hypo my workouts, and it makes sense because like the the glucose isn't going where it needs to go. It's just hanging out. Um, and that's why that whole last prep was so horrendous for me. It was because it was just like, yeah. Whee! Because I felt like ass the whole time. Like by the time I was doing more than 30 minutes of cardio a day, I felt like I was gonna die. It felt like slogging up. It felt like my legs weighed at 1,000,000 pounds. And that feeling should come on. Like it does come on the end of prep, but I was feeling like this when I still had like 30 pounds to go, like 25 pounds to go. It felt like I was 4 weeks out, the whole time. So it was just, I was like, this can't be like, I shouldn't be going hypo at this point. That's really weird. And I tested my blood sugar and like I was going hypo when that was happening. It wasn't just like, oh, I feel tired. It's like,
Just
no,
feel this way.
I
Mm-hmm.
was actually going hypo. So there's just something amiss there. And there were just a lot of symptoms like that we just couldn't point to one thing over the other and couldn't put the pieces together. Now, I still don't know why I'm like that. I don't know if it's like a genetic thing or runs in my family, which I have diabetes on both sides of my family. So it wouldn't surprise me. But I mean, holy shit. It's like, for the right person in the right situation, I don't even care if that drug made me gain 10 pounds. I wouldn't have given a fuck. Like if the fact that I'm able to not go hypo all the time and my digestion's better and I actually have a normal functioning bladder, oh my God, I would have taken
Mm-hmm.
it. I was like,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that we were talking about too, is like apply this to like a lifestyle person, because someone in Carolyn's life, like she knows, was like prescribed it and stuff. And they're like, well, they don't even have like regular like activities down. Like even going for walks was a hard thing for that person to do. So it's like with lifestyle clients, like it's easier to prescribe it to them because they're the ones that have all these like issues and stuff, but they don't have the habits that like bodybuilding teaches us. So that's why we were kind of like, is it even almost better for bodybuilders to utilize and utilize it correctly,
Yeah, for the right
like,
reason. Because because there are people that use it that do not have a good time with it, and it does not
Mhm.
work. Like they
Yep.
only have really bad side effects. It is this, you guys, this is by no means like for everybody. And it has to make sense. Like there's got to be a reason. Now there are multiple reasons why, but it's like Kayla was just saying, if the problem that you're seeing now is most people taking it don't have any of these habits down. Their protein intake isn't there. Micronutrients aren't there. So they're, like I was just saying, they're eating like a little thing of mac and cheese and a soda and a Gatorade, and that's like all they're eating all day. Whereas, all of us and anyone in the bodybuilding community, like, I'll be damned if I'm gonna lose an ounce of muscle. So you best believe I was like shoveling protein in my mouth. I don't care how nauseous it made me. I was like, hell no. Like, I'm not trying to get skinny. I'm just trying to not piss my pants.
Yeah.
Please
Yeah.
God.
It's like,
Um,
and we're used to like eating when we're not hungry, like waiting to eat when we are really hungry. Like it's just, that's where bodybuilding is like fucked up, because like we just don't listen to hunger cues, and that's where like it can get into trouble. But at the same time, in this case, like it helps because you
yeah.
still have to eat,
Sorry, my dog's chewing on my tree skirt.
Oh, you're good.
No.
But yeah, Carolyn, talk a little bit about like that situation.
It's definitely one of those where one, she was not even given a chance to look at her lab work
Hmm.
before they decided to, I already forgot the name of it, which
We'll
again,
go
it was the first time
or
hearing
pound.
Zepbound. Yeah, so it was the first time hearing about Zepbound, and so there are going to be all these new varieties of GLP-1s out there under new names or in different, what do they call them? Like strains of the GLP-1s are going to be into different forms. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out for, particularly with those who have been overweight for most of their life. So it is going to be an easy target to that population that wants that easy fix, but it's not going to solve the problem unless you
Yep.
have your lifestyle, habits already in place and then can play, with the GLP-1s, then okay, sure, try it out and see what happens. Because like for Amanda, you never would have known unless you had tried it. But of course, a lot of these drugs, haven't been tested on the market for a very long time. But when it becomes a point where it's hindering your lifestyle, like you being stuck in traffic, it's like, okay, well, we need to seek out other options, but understand the risks when we are doing these things. But it's just my one of their gripes about big pharma. But I'm not an anti, Western medicine or vaccines or anything like that. There's always a place and time for all of that.
Mhm.
Disclaimer here.
Yeah.
It's when doctors are pushing whatever med there is because they get a cutback. That's what pisses me off. So,
Yeah, it's the issue of like, let's give you this, but no education behind it, or like, let's give you this, but not even try a lifestyle change first, like, or they'll just be like, well, don't eat fast food and like fried foods.
Yeah.
It's like,
I
well,
love being
duh.
televised as much as the next person. Oh, hi, husband.
There's Dan. Yes.
So that's like, and I'm with you on that. Like that's where I have the issue of like in the medical field where the disconnect is like they can sit there and prescribe things, but like they don't know if it's going to work. It might just be slapping a band-aid on it because they're not addressing like, the deep rooted issues. It's, has this person ever even tried or knows what macros are, kind of thing. I think they have good intentions when you go to school and you're in health class and they try to teach you, the food pyramid and all that stuff. But now that's all changed so much now from like when we were kids, the biggest one was the carbs and wheat at the bottom was like what you should be eating the most of, right? And now it's just changed so much. So yeah. So I mean, I feel like it's going in the direction where like everyone will have like a doctor, but then they'll also have like a health coach or something like that to help them through this, unless they start teaching it in school, which is going to be probably never, of course, but it's
Yeah.
just a complicated thing. And it's like what you guys said earlier about like it's dependent on the person. Like not every drug is made for every single person out there.
No, and I get the plight of the doctor because you have a lot of people who they're
Hmm.
just they're so sick from the obesity. Like there's so many that just getting the weight off and for a lot of doctors, like they don't care if they're only eating like a little bit of like half a bagel with cream cheese a day and that's it. They're at risk for so many diseases and death that they're just like, let's just get the weight off and then move forward from there. And I understand that thought process of like, that's important just to get their body in a better spot. And there's always going to be those people that just kind of not abuse it, but just don't use it in the intended way. But their composition is going to reflect it because you see people saying like, oh, they have people that are like saggy skin and stuff like that. Like, of course, these are people that are losing like 150 pounds. Like that's going to happen.
Mhm.
And they're going to look very different to everybody. And I think, but that's why I feel like people in the fitness industry that have those habits down, like they're exercising, they're resistance training, they have a really great handle on their nutrition plan, they're eating sufficient protein and nutrients, they're doing all of that, but there's a missing link going on, whether it's insulin insensitivity that through trial and error of many other things, like myself, like I've been working at this for like 5 or 6 years now, trying to figure out like what's not quite right with my body. And no one's really been able to figure it out. And it's not like anything that was dire, but there was just like, man, this is all of this is a lot harder. There's just nothing feels quite right. For those people, like it could be a really great option to just kind of reduce that inflammation and get that insulin sensitivity in check, as long as they're being monitored by the right people and that's being dosed properly. Because like I've only ever used, because like for semaglutide specifically, it starts at 0.25 milligrams and goes up to 2.4 milligrams. The most I've ever taken is 0.5. So it's just the second dose from the very minimal teeny tiny starting dose. And I've bounced back between 0.5 and 0.25. And I kind of dose it like right in the middle. So it's like 0.3 or 0.4-ish, which is pretty much like just above the starting dose. I've never gone above 0.5. I did by accident once. I thought I was going to die. Literally, I was like on the bed. I was like, this may be where it ends. I don't think I can do this because it can cause a lot of nausea if you increase the dose.
Yeah.
Those first couple days. So I've stayed at like that kind of really low dose the whole time.
Mhm.
Um,
I
and
think,
oh,
go
sorry.
ahead, sorry,
I
finish.
know people that have gotten up to 2 milligrams and feel nothing.
Mhm.
And I
I
think
was
that scenario, that's not the right person for it. And there's something else, like whatever, because they're still doing a lot of research on these, you guys. Like there's still a lot of information we don't have about them in a sense of how it's impacting inflammation and autoimmunity. But whatever pathways this is working on, it's not working on those people. And there's something else amiss there. So sorry, go ahead, Kayla.
I was just gonna add to that and say like that there's like for some people there's like a sweet spot too. Like, cause I had a client that tried it and like we were on like the lowest dose possible for like a month or 2 months. It was like 2 months. And she was just not feeling good, like sick. She's like, nope, I want to keep trying. I'm like, you can stop. I'm like, if you really want to. And then we pushed the dose up a little bit and then it just like poof went away. And then it was fine. And then she just started cruising. So it's like you kind of have to get over like a hump a little bit with it too. And I think per person, there's like I said, like the little sweet spot there too. So it's not because the recommendations are to start low, wait like 2 weeks and then bump it up and then another 2 weeks and bump it and like keep going with it because that's like the protocol to do with it and then pull it back down. But if you're like still losing, at the lowest dose possible, like why would you increase it?
Because I think in a doctor's office, they wait 4 weeks in between dose increases.
Oh, is it 4? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was 2.
Oh, no, you're totally good. Some people, because I think, but it's also dependent. That's just like what the label on the back of the injection says. But I think, if you have if there's a client, let's say, or a patient with a doctor, and I've talked to doctors about this medication, so I know if they're 2 weeks in and they've seen no change whatsoever, they might bump it up early. The recommendation I think is just for like, hey, on the safe side, I give it 4 weeks to kind of do its thing. Because when I first took the first dose, like the second day, I was like, I'm gonna throw up if I smell food. Like it was
Oh,
immediate.
really?
Oh yeah, it was like really quick and it was manageable, but I was like, ugh. And then I waited like 2 weeks. 4 or 5 weeks, I think. And then that kind of went away, bumped it up to 0.5, same thing kind of happened. And then I never went above that, because there's just no need. There was just no need. Like it had
You were
resolved.
losing, so why?
Yeah, I felt
Mhm.
fine. It does lower blood pressure a bit. So in women, and this happened to me for a few months too, you can get kind of like a head rush easily if you stand up from laying down and from sitting down. That can happen, but not to everybody. It just I mean, I already have kind of lower blood pressure anyway, so I think it just kind of exacerbates it. But to be honest, I don't have that really at all anymore, unless I'm like crouched down and my knees are bent. But that would happen to me. Like you stand up too fast and you're like, where am I? Yeah, a little head rush. But I don't really hardly get that at all anymore. So a lot of it's pretty like the negatives, which for me was just like the nausea, have resolved. But yeah, everybody, because I know, I mean, I have people that I know that have taken it that got super anxious, like felt like want to jump out of their skin anxious, like did not feel good whatsoever. And then some people that got no benefit from it at all. And it's just like any other medication, like you just have to use it properly, have it being overseen by someone that knows what they're talking about. And then just go from there.
Mhm.
Amen.
Yeah, I agree. I think that goes with anything. So speaking of head rushes, I told you this already. Carolyn, you weren't on yet. I tried to get lab work yesterday. Emphasis on the try. My
Oh
She stuck
no.
the needle in my arm and it did not go well. And this happens every time, and I'm so sick of it, but I passed the fuck out. I was out. I was like, because she stuck it in and like she had to like rearrange it. And then she was like, I gotta do it again. I'm like, oh fuck. And like took it out and I'm like, all right, go ahead. And I already started feeling it. And then she put it in and she had to do it again because like my vein just moved, I guess. Like, I don't know. I have nice veins. I get told all the time by doctors, like, oh, you have really nice veins. And I'm like, yeah, don't touch me.
But you don't stay awake enough to see them.
And yeah, and I'm just like, and I wasn't even looking. I'm like, yep. I was like, you gotta take it out. I was like, I'm like, I'm getting hot. Like, nope. And had an ice pack on my head soon enough. I'm just like laying there like this, like waking up. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, we're gonna have to try this another day.
You need to like blindfold yourself and put some like lidocaine on your arm just so you don't feel it. Cause it's not like it hurts really, but I think for you, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
The pain thing like doesn't bother me at all, like
it's
whatsoever.
just having someone fish in your vein. Yeah, that freaks you
It's the
out.
thought of like something going in there like around and it's just like ugh, like I
Yeah. It is
mm-mm.
kind of like when I'm like, cause it doesn't bother me really, but when I feel it, I'm like, ugh, like it's just not, it's not
Because
what
you
you want to start your
like it
day.
feels like it goes like into like because it's a yeah.
It
So
does.
basically I even like emailed my coach and I was like, I know you really need labs, but like every time I go, I was like, I pass out and like I just like can't do it anymore. I'm like, can we just do like saliva or urine for now? Like, can I just do like a Dutch test and stuff? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. He's like, but at some point we're gonna have to do like just organ health and stuff. And I'm like, I know. I was like, I can suck it up for that, but like the panel that I do was like 9 tubes of blood, and I'm just like, that's a lot. That's a lot of blood. Nice.
I feel like they just need to lay you down and let you pass out, and then they can take whatever they need from you.
Yeah, just let me pass out and then I'll just like lay there and then they can just do it.
You need Tyler to like block the view so you don't see anything.
I just need him to
The
be there to
thought.
tell me to stop being a pussy and then it'll be like, okay, I can't do that. I'm like,
Uh,
I don't
No, I
know.
think it's just the thought of the needle going in is what's triggering you to pass out.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's either that or it's the fact of like blood coming out.
Yeah.
It's because when I like cut my head open one time and I like didn't cry, nothing, it hurt, but I didn't cry, but just all the blood, I passed out. Like it just was like what is going on? Like all the blood, I passed out. Same thing with my finger, cut my finger wide open, passed out. Like didn't cry. So like, but my dad handled things the same way. So I think it's kind of genetic where like your blood pressure just like drops really fast. I don't know. But yeah, my dad would do the same thing. He cut his head open one time. He was sitting in the mirror doing this, like looking at it. All of a sudden, he just like passes out.
Oh.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Like I love it when I get to like be able to just stick the needle in and see it come out. Like I'm just weird.
Nope. You want to do mine for me?
It's so
That would be
fast.
great.
Cool, let's go.
You're like,
But
Carol,
but-
will you send your vials in for me? Like, oh
yeah,
my gosh, that's
just
so
send
No,
in
no
your
worries. It's fucking awesome. And also, especially when I got to do it for horses, getting like shoot them in. Fuck yeah. Let's
I
go.
mean, oh, look at it.
Aw.
So cute.
being a baby.
So yeah, that was my adventure yesterday. So I'll get labs done at some point. Um, my body lets me do it. I even like emailed like
Sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing so hard. Just picture you just like,
it's okay. I like go in now. Anytime I'm gonna get labs, I'm like, just so you know, there's like a 50-50 chance I'm gonna pass out. Like, just so you're ready for it. I even like bring myself like a juice pack. I bring myself a little snack, like, because if I need to eat something
oh,
afterwards,
shit.
kind of thing. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh
no.
my
It
gosh.
happens.
Oh man, it's definitely something I'm sure they deal with it all the time because it's not uncommon. Like I think a lot of people are kind of disturbed by the
Mhm.
ongoings of blood draw. So
But I'm still gonna do it because I still want to compete and got to keep bodybuilding. And but I'm just not gonna not do it because I don't like it. You know, it's just the part that I just really don't like.
well, it's not that you just don't like it, but you like literally pass
Can't do-
out.
Yeah, my
So
body like rejects it. My body's like, nope.
Yeah. It's not like you're grossed out by it or anything. It's just your
But it's
body.
funny because I can stick myself otherwise.
it's a blood thing. Yeah, that must be
It's
like
got to be the blood thing.
The blood coming out of the needle. That's the thing.
Enzo, leave it. This dog, you guys, he keeps going after my Christmas tree, the little skirt that goes around the bottom.
Oh yeah. Is there little frillies on it or something?
Yes, he's just like
Ah.
anything that mom enjoys, I'm gonna destroy.
Oh, I feel that. So we got a new puppy. I told you guys that, Bo.
The baby.
Little red heeler puppy. He is so cute, but he's an 8-month-old red heeler, and heelers are very curious and they're very destructive. So like you can't like leave him alone for very long. Like I went to go take a shower this morning and I came back and like my plant that Carolyn sent me, for when my dad passed away, my plant, he like ate half of it. And it was just on the floor. And I'm like, dude, really? Like it's a plant. Like
So my friend, she has 2 Australian cattle dogs, and
Mhm.
every single day I get a text. I think I'm gonna send them to slaughter.
They're very smart, but they're very
They're
stubborn.
very smart
So
dogs.
yeah.
So
And he is
my
very
mom-
smart. Like he gets into things like you would not believe. And it's like, how did you even get that? And like, yeah.
They've got a ton of energy. Like you've got to keep those dogs so busy.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually going to send Enzo off to training, not because he's bad. He's actually really good, but just for like, because we got him to eventually do personal protection work with him. And we
Oh,
found,
that's awesome.
yeah, we found a guy just south of here a little bit that does like all of the work with the police dogs and stuff. So we're sending him to get like that advanced training.
Mm-hmm.
And once that foundation is set, because you need someone that knows what the hell they're doing. I can't just like take him to a class here and there and do that. Like that's like
Yeah.
it's like
It's very intense.
boot camp, yeah. And
Mhm.
his facility, it's so nice. Like the dogs are so well taken care of, and he's gonna be doing what he loves all day. He's gonna be working. Like
Oh
that's
yeah.
we're training him. He wants to just do it all day.
Mhm.
But that's like they need that mental stimulation because if I like when Dan and I are kind of lax on his training for a little, just because like work gets kind of hectic, and so for a few
Yep.
weeks he's on it, his behavior gets not good.
He gets naughty.
They
Mhm.
need like that
Even
mental stimulation.
that's the same thing. Like so Tyler did that with Odin, but he trained him himself because he military background, like he's trained dogs like his whole life and stuff. And so he trained Odin for like protection and stuff. And like Odin just had like such a drive for balls. And still, this dog is 10 years old. He's a Belgian Malinois. So they already have tons of energy. And 10 years old and this dog will still go nuts for a ball. Like will continue throwing it and catching it, throwing it, bring it back until he literally can't walk anymore. Like he will tear the pads on his feet until he just wants the ball. like still, it's
And
crazy.
that's a part of the training too, is yes, they can keep on going, but having the control to turn it off, that's very hard to do. That's
Yeah.
especially for a Malinois. And it doesn't matter what age they are, they will go until the end.
Those
So-
dogs scale like 20-foot walls. It's
oh, easily.
Yeah.
way too
Tyler
much.
he has a video of him like coming up like a straight 20-foot wall, grabbing a thing, and he hangs from it. And he has a video of it. I'm like, that is nuts. Like super cool. But yeah,
That's
you
too
definitely
much.
don't want those dogs to bite you.
I love
Yeah.
Belgian Malinois, but like I know I do not have the lifestyle to be able to handle that dog. Like there's no freaking way. Like Doberman is already the top end because they're energetic, but they can also chill out a little bit here and
Mhm.
there. But like a Malinois, hell no. No
They're
way.
they're like
Dumb.
on crack all the time.
No off switch. Yeah.
Yep.
What I really love is it's like you got your German Shepherds, but then you got your Dutch Shepherds, and then you have a mountain. It's like at least here, and the same with the cattle. You know, I'm still gonna put those in that list too. But
Their
having
cattle
the-
dogs are like Malinois on crack. So just smaller. But yeah, I mean and it's great. Like we want a dog like that. Well, Tyler was very intensive with Odin when he was younger and stuff, like really intense on his training and everything. And like now that he's a little older, he's like, okay, well now I can just have like a companion dog that doesn't need to be super trained like that. And so we got Bo after Hank passed away. And so he just rides in the truck with him all the time. And then he'll get to go run, you know, outside and stuff because he's driving around all the time and everything. So it just works out nice. But I've never had a healer, but I really like him. I think he's cute. He's just destructive sometimes, but it's a puppy. What do you
Awesome.
expect?
Your stage.
Mm-hmm.
you know, I just need a yard. I'm ready to get out of the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I know, Caroline, you're the only one. We need to get you a doggy.
Yeah.
Waiting to go down to Lockland, just waiting for that call and then go down there.
Woo.
That's
Baby.
where all the retired canines are. Actually, Amanda, if you want to give them a shout out, the training facility that's in Denver.
Yeah, it's called Mock Canine, MOC K9, like letter K and then 9. They're in Castle Rock. And he's got a really good Instagram. Let me see what it is. I think it's, oops.
Oh, the puppies. So cute.
Oops.
Great.
It's Mock MOC underscore K9 underscore training. And he
Sweet.
has like tons of really cool posts of him he works with all kinds of dogs, but the majority of the dogs on here are like Shepherds, Malinois, Labs, a few Dobermans, a lot of working dogs, because he does do like bite work with them. He does Schutzhund, he does agility, he does all kinds of stuff, protection work. He works with the local police force with the K9 unit. So we're going to meet with him on Saturday just to kind of go over our plan for it. So we're excited.
That's exciting. That's super exciting. Oh, also, like since we last chatted, like we've all decided that we're gonna meet up at the Arnold, which is gonna be super fun. We all bought
Yay.
tickets. So that was just over what, Thanksgiving break that we did that?
I think so.
Yeah.
Before.
Right
Before.
before. Mhm.
Who knows? Sometime
Whenever, but we actually all haven't been in like the same place for like over a year and a half now, I think.
Was it the Olympia in 2022?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Because
God.
as we were talking about semaglutide, I was like, I remember that brunch at the Venetian.
That was the best brunch ever.
Wait, was I there?
Yeah, because your parents were there. Your dad and
Oh,
stepmom. And they went
oh,
to the wrong one.
The Lux Cafe.
Yes.
And it looked like the Cheesecake Factory.
You know what's
Mhm.
funny is when we were at the Olympia this last time, we went back there just for that French toast, and it was not the same. I don't know if it was like soggy. I was like,
Oh,
guys,
no.
we've been looking forward to this for a year.
I finished
Because that was like,
toast because I was
that
coming
was-
off prep.
yes, that's right. Because you were just coming off of prep and stuff. And it was like, yeah, it was.
And Amanda was like, I'm full. And I'm like, I'll finish that for you.
You're like, are you out of your mind? And I'm like, I know it's so frustrating like when you're in prep and you're just like a bottomless pit and you're watching someone leave food. You're like, I'm gonna kill you. Like
Mhm.
anyone like leaving food, like you're out of your fucking mind. I know it's such a weird, it's such a crazy, like, and then when you're off season, you're normal. It's like not a big deal. It's like, I don't need to finish this, but
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I know,
Yep.
especially that being literally like weeks after my last show. I was like, this is not good.
Well, you prepped forever too, so
Literally
like,
3
And
prep. One.
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and that's why I haven't prepped since.
exactly. So you need time off, but no, I definitely like even doing mini cuts now, like with the girls around is a whole new experience just because I've never had like little kids around. And of course, they're always like, Kayla, like you should have some of this too. And I'm like, no, thank you and stuff. And they're like, or they'll ask like, well, how come you're not eating what we're eating? And I'm like, well, this is just what I'm made for myself. And they don't ask it a lot, actually. They're actually really good and stuff. And like I make them like just whatever food that they want usually. Um, but it's been interesting with like kids around now. Like it's nice though, like to understand how other people do it with kids and stuff. And like it's definitely gonna be a challenge once I actually get into prep, but I'll be fine. I'm not worried about it by any means.
I think
It
it'll
was
be really good because I think what can happen is, and you're doing it the right way of not like assigning any kind of meaning to the food for the kids, like, oh, I'm just eating really healthy, making them feel like what they're eating isn't, you know what I mean? Just trying to
Yep.
give them an explanation that's not a lie, but you also don't want to make them feel like what they're eating isn't good. Like, of course it is. So it's like
Mhm.
having like the way we talk about food, it's crazy how much that gets passed, it's not how much, it does get passed down to the kids. So if you're,
Yep.
demonizing food or whatever it is, um, around your kids, like that's gonna eventually stick with them and they're gonna have the same issue with it. That's
Mhm.
why it's like, saying things like, oh, mommy, or, I'm working towards a fitness competition. So I've got to be a little bit more strict on my diet and then I'll get to eat with you here in a few months. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, that looks so yummy. Have some, have a bite for me, or just making them feel like both options are okay. There's just one is supporting one goal and theirs is supporting theirs.
Mhm. Yep.
Um,
And I always make sure too, like that they have like their like protein source, their like a carb source, like a fruit, a vegetable on like every single meal, basically. And they still have fun stuff. Like if we're in a rush, sometimes like they get dino nuggies and tater tots, like they're kids, they enjoy that stuff too. So, but I make sure to wake up and like I make them like eggs and like sausage and like a good like we made sourdough banana bread the other weekend, so I gave them some of that and everything, and like they love it. So like they know that they're eating healthy and stuff, and like we try to tell them, like you gotta eat your meat because like it makes you like strong and stuff, and if you want to be big and strong, you gotta eat the meat and everything. And I growing up to how I did, like I've noticed a lot of food things with myself, and so I'm trying not to instill that in them and do those types of things and like to show them that like when I eat Brussels sprouts and stuff, they've asked like, "What's that, Kayla?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a Brussels sprout. You want to try one?" And then they're kind of like at first, but I make them try it, and like they're like they'll try it, and then they're just kind of like, like it's okay and stuff, but they're really good. Like they really are. Like, and I want to set a good example, I guess, is all I want to do.
it sounds like you already are. I mean, you're exposing them to all different kinds of foods and teaching them like how a meal should be built. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's okay just to have a fun little snack and,
Mhm.
having them notice like what foods taste good and make their bodies feel good. And
Mhm.
just, yeah, I think it's just, especially when they're that little, like you don't need to be like, well, this has, antioxidants and well, like they're
Yeah, they
baby.
don't
You know
care
what I
about
mean?
that.
They're little. It's just in their routine, if they're used to eating that way with you guys, like having fruits and vegetables and protein, they're going to continue with those habits. And they're not like, you're not
Mhm.
making them feel terrified of candy and stuff like that. Cause that's where,
Exactly. Like don't get me wrong, we definitely have treats in our house. Like I always have like a fun like ice cream dessert or something, or we make popcorn. And like this weekend, like we're gonna make cookies. I had them each pick out which kind of cookie they want to make for Christmas. And like I'm excited because I like to bake. So I'm just like, well, this gives me an excuse to like make more cookies, even though I'm not gonna eat them. So so yeah, it's fun. And like they've been helping me make bread and they love it because you have to like with sourdough, you have to like push it out and stuff like that and spread it. And they're like, Kayla, is it time? Is it time for us to pat the bread yet? Like, can we pat it? And I'm like, no, not yet. We just gotta wait. But they have so much fun with it. So it makes it fun for me.
That's so cute. Oh, I love that. Especially like teaching kids how to, bake and make food. I think I
Mhm.
loved I have like when I was really little, I have memories of like my mom teaching me how to, or baking with me and me cooking with her. And those are like some of my happiest little memories with her.
Mhm.
I remember her making like, like parents or moms always have their like dishes that they like to make. Um, and those are some of my like favorite memories is just her like even like letting me stir things like the brownie batter or like I used to take the tongs and like toss or mix up the salad. And I
Mhm.
just love that. So, and I
Yep.
love it's cute.
Yep. They love to help. They're always like, Kayla, can I help you? And like it's always when I'm in a hurry too, or like when we're like in a rush in the morning, and I'm like, okay. So I'll let them like crack the egg and stuff, and they're still learning. And sometimes the egg just kind of goes everywhere, and I'm like, well, it is what it is. Like,
There it
here's something
goes.
to eat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so um what else do we have for bodybuilding topics? I guess everything's kind of, well, nationals is coming up, but otherwise it's kind of slowing down for this year. I have a client competing this weekend,
Oh, nice.
so this is her first
And
show. Uh, bikini NPC. She's still natural though. It's her first show, but she looks great. I think I've sent you guys pictures of her before. But she really good glute shape. Like I think she'll do pretty well. Her first show. So yeah, and then lots just in off season, ready to grow, which is pretty cool. And it's exciting to have athletes that, stay on and want to do that and stuff. Cause I feel like I'm finally like growing my athlete roster this year. Like it's taken this long to grow an athlete roster.
well, you've had such a focus on functional clients that have a lot of like hormone and gut issues and I can't talk anymore. Sorry. Just like disparities that are more internal, less like a focus on working towards a competition or muscle growth or weight loss, whatever it may be. They're just trying to, I
Mhm.
feel like that stuff it's so hard because there's so much, I guess, hope put on like the protocol or not the protocol, the programming, but usually the cause of it is up here for them.
Mhm.
I definitely see a correlation with clients who are more anxious, more high strung, and them having issues in general.
Yeah.
And it's like no amount of herbals or antifungals or antibiotics are gonna fix what's causing all of this. And there may be some genetic components going on for sure, like everyone's individual, but a lot of times it's how they perceive stress. Like people don't realize like how they view their life has a direct impact on how they look and how their
Mhm.
body, because your body can only handle that kind of acute, I guess, chronic stress for so long before physical things start getting impacted by it. Um, but yeah, it blows me away. I think that managing stress for a lot of those people is the number one thing.
And that's the first thing I work on with them now. Like I'm honestly kind of like went away from like all the protocols and stuff. Like I'll use them when necessary, but I've just like same thing as you. Like I just found like a lot of times it's all up here. Like I have a girl that went through all the protocols, did all the things, before she came to me. And I was like, like we just gotta kind of like chill for a minute, And she still is a little high strung with things about like her routine getting off. And I'm like, hey, it's okay. Like if you have to go do this thing, like you can adjust your food this way, or if you have to eat out, you can do this kind of thing. And she's like, well, I'm just so used to like having to like be perfect on this diet and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like we need adherence, but like this is how you change it and this is how you can adjust for things. And I think people learning that it's not this all or nothing mindset with just anything that they do is like the biggest help in it too, of course.
Yeah, I think people just don't even know how to eat anymore because they've been on some kind of strict structure or regimen for years. And a lot of these people have gone from, coach to coach trying to find the magic bullet. And you're like, how's that worked out?
And
It's
then it
not.
sucks because they get to you, and then it's hard for them to trust a coach because they've had all these other coaches that tell them, oh, this is going to work great for you. It's going to happen. And then you're like, all right, now I got to dig you out of this hole. And like, it's going to take a while. Like, and try to get them to keep trusting you is hard and stuff.
You should, I don't know if you do this. I will tell clients they need therapy. And
Oh, yeah.
not in like
Mhm.
I've had therapy like off and on my whole life.
I'm in therapy right
My
now.
whole life since college, my whole adult life. Um, but I'm like, dude, you've tried everything. I'm sure with every coach you've had, you've done keto, you've done carnivore, you've done low FODMAP with every antifungal and herbal medication there is. You've had 20 rounds of antibiotics. You've done fasting of every sort. You've done like literally everything. And I'm like, let's stop doing that for a second and look at like, okay, what are my ways of being and acting that are possibly contributing to a lot of this? Because I've never once that I can recall met someone who's riddled with these issues and is just like a super chill, like laid
Mhm.
back person. Not even chill, like they don't care about anything, but just someone that digests their day-to-day goings on pretty in a pretty level-headed way. And that like, yeah, like stressors, because the thing is like, yeah, life is stressful. Your job, you have maybe have a newborn baby or a toddler running around. You might be going through a divorce. You might be sending your kid off to college and there's terrified, you can't, what are you going to do? Like just get rid of everyone in your life and all of your stressors? It's like, no, of course not. Maybe it's how you're perceiving them. Like if every little thing is like a big blow up and just sets you off, it's like, that's how you're internalizing and how you're viewing your life, not necessarily that thing is actually as big as you think it is. And I think in this country too, we're just so in such a bubble of how to think and act, and everyone is traumatized and everyone is triggered. And sorry if that upsets you all, but it's fucking true. Like, and I'm not
Everyone's
saying
offended
ignore
about
it.
everything.
Yeah, I'm not saying ignore stuff. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because everyone's going to hear like, oh, you just say brush under the rug. That's no. Everybody likes to read into everything.
Mhm.
It's saying address it, but don't let it become your identity. Like things that happened to you in your life, whether it was you're younger, whatever it was, like, yes, address those things and then move forward from it. And if it comes up again, address it again and move forward. Keep building on those things. But people get so stuck in like their identity is
Mhm.
all the bad things that have ever happened to them. And you get to be on this planet once, God damn it, one time. Whether you believe in an afterlife or not, you're here on this earth, whatever the hell you believe, one time. And you're going to
Mhm.
spend it freaking out about your boss in some corporate building in the grand scheme of the planet, like, or whatever it is. So it's like, it's not to say, like I said, you're ignoring anything, but it's also like keep things in perspective, keep your life in perspective. And maybe, just maybe, if you look at the facts of the situation, you're like, okay, this happened, got it. These are the steps of the people I'm going to talk to address it. And I'm going to talk to these people and then resolve it and move forward.
Mhm.
But everyone likes to stew and make up stories and make up things in their head about
Dwell
what,
on things and just let it sit there and yeah.
oh yeah, all day. I'm like, why don't you just go talk to that person? Oh, I don't want to talk to them about. I'm like, okay, so you can just stew on it for the next 5 years and then riddle yourself with whatever negative emotions coming from it. It's like, that sounds better.
And it was actually just like a miscommunication or something, or just
Almost every time when people go talk to the person about it, the person, it's like resolved like that, like literally instantaneously resolved, and it was fine.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's really hard to say too, especially with those who have said they've tried everything, but they're in the same situation as our parents were, as we were when we first started, particularly with, we grew up with the forums, the classic, bodybuilding pro tips here and there, clean eating lifestyles. So we all have to use that and understand that these athletes that we work with are at a different place in their journey. And it's easy for us to forget that we were once in their shoes. But at the same time, we're not trying to change the past or change how they view health and fitness, but instead have them become smarter in their day to day and understanding, knowing how to separate what's happening in work with how they are internally. Because it's so easy for us to take work home, and that's the last thing you want to do. You want to leave that outside the house, and just know like when it's time to focus on whatever task is at hand, whether it's being with your kids or being with your wife, with your partner, and being able to separate that mind is so essential, or else you're just going to get lost in the sauce every day.
Oh, totally. And I think what's harder for people is they want to cling to their way of thinking like it's their lifeblood. You know what I mean?
Or the
They don't
bodybuilding
have
lifestyle is like who they are and their identity. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, but you're not going to be a bodybuilder forever.
No,
What are you going to do after all of this?
yeah.
Well, yeah, and even in like because I'm talking about like the like every area of their life, like bodybuilding, personal relationships, everything. People will cling to how they view things, like I call it like, or their lens through which they view things, perspective, whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, they're so unwilling to set it down, like how they view the world and how they view their situations, their life, their stressors, people, relationships, all of it. They're unwilling to set it down and be like, maybe there's another way, because the way they're viewing it most of the time isn't working for them.
Mhm.
AKA they're on beta blockers. They are overwhelmed by daily things. They can't seem to get a handle on their relationships. They can't seem to get good communication across, whether it's,
Anxiety and depression.
yeah, like everyone's more medicated than the world's ever been, and the world's never been more depressed and anxious. So
Mhm.
it's like, you know, I don't know. I think there's a lot of work that can be done there. And I think and because like we can't tell people this is how you should think. It's not that. It's just opening their mind to the fact that there's also another way. There's not, and that other way is going to be different for everybody. But you guys, if there's a way of thinking that's not working for you, and I mean, if your life is riddled with these kinds of things, there is a way of thinking and being that's not working for you. Pick something else, anything. It can
Mhm.
be, if you're like, okay, the way I look at my work situation right now is causing me nothing but stress. What's another way I could look at it that won't do that?
Mhm.
And people are like, that doesn't work. It actually does. And all we have is evidence that your way doesn't work.
Mhm.
So I feel like with those, sorry, tangent, those clients that have a lot of that, that's the work that needs to be done before anything else. But it takes not a lot of time to do it. It takes time to convince people it's possible that it can be done. And
It's
that's
it's getting them to see it in a different way. Like, because I've had before where clients are just super negative and like, why are all these things happening to me? Why does this keep happening? Like, well, and then comes like, well, I have this excuse because I couldn't do this because this came up and I couldn't control it. And it's like, well, if you don't like something, like change it. Like you're in control of changing it. You know, if you don't like your job, you can change it. If you don't like your living situation, you can change it. Like you might have to go backwards to take 2 steps forwards, but in the end, like you're going to be so much happier. And like, especially things with like jobs, relationships, you know, living situations, like that's where you spend majority of your time. So like, if that's causing you more stress than it is like happiness, like you need to change something there. And I think that that's a big issue for people too, like myself included. Like I've been there, you know, where I was putting in way too much of my energy and not getting anything back. And that's just it put me into that hormonal downfall of what I went through.
Yeah. And I have a really good example, because I know some of this can not make a ton of sense without a specific example. What I mean by your lens is like, if you are in a relationship, so let's just take an example of like a guy and a girl in a relationship, they're living together. They kind of are butting up against the same kind of miscommunication wall, right? She maybe, so she already has in her mind, he's going to respond like this to what I say. I just know it. And then he does, because that's what she's looking for. And then she therefore responds this way. And it's like, she's not the person, you're not looking at their perspective
You're
at
preparing.
all. Yeah, you're not listening to what they're saying at all. You're listening to what you think their perspective is. Like, oh, he thinks like this. And it's like, and he needs to do the same thing for her. I'm just saying, like, from one side of it, you know what I mean? And people just get the waters so muddied that way, and they're unwilling. The way I look at it is the way. It's like, come on, you guys, like, come on. And I'm not saying the other person's right. That's not what I'm saying. But if you took a second to just look out, I wonder what could cause my boyfriend to see the situation like that. And if you took a second just to try to like see how they see it, you would be and you, let's say, what if you both did that? What if you both are like, you know what? I could totally see how you would get to that conclusion or that perspective based off how you're looking at it. And if you both did that for each other, how many arguments do you think you would mitigate completely? But it takes a lot for someone to be able to set their own perspective down and own another one.
Mhm.
And they're like, no, I'm not going to it can be due to like an ego thing or whatever, but I'm like, you're going to butt up against the same wall. Some of the best leaders in the world are able to do that. Like they can see, they're willing to look at the other side because you have to look at the other side.
Mhm.
Anyway.
There's your guys' philosophical lecture.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's
he's
important
fine.
though, like these mindset things, especially like, cause like we've talked about, like bodybuilding is not just about like your physique. Like more often than not, like the physique is the outcome, but like what you learn internally and how you change internally is like really what you're winning at when it comes to bodybuilding. Like at least for me, like that's been over 10 years of doing this. Like I'm a completely different person from when I started, like 100% different.
Yeah. Oh, like the clients I have, like I can think of a handful of them that are just executors and they're not overthinking and overanalyzing every goddamn thing. They ask questions when, of course, they want to or need to. Um, and in their check-ins, like I can just tell by how they're talking about things. They're like, because I asked them, and did you have anything come up this week? Any stressors I should know about that could be impacting your adherence or progression? And they're like, oh, maybe a couple little work things, but I handled it. It's no big deal. Whereas the other person's like, oh my God. And I have like this like 3-minute audio about what happened at work, right? Which is not bad, but that's two very different perceptions of stress right there.
Mhm.
One person's like, oh yeah, but I took care of it. It's no big deal. And the other person's like still on it. Those two people have very different progress. And I
Mhm.
think there's a lot that can be learned from that. It's not that there's one way to look at it, but it's just like someone that's able to just take things for what they are and address them and move forward versus someone that's just like ruminating in it and becoming a victim of the situation. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you can see a big difference in the progress of the two. It's more of an uphill battle, I would say. And it's not because they're not doing the work. It's just they're getting in their own way a lot of the time. But honestly, that's one of my favorite sides of coaching because I think a lot of people don't realize that there is another option for them. Like, hey, there's another way to view your life. Did you know?
Mhm.
And
I
I'm
agree
only,
with that. Mhm.
yeah. And I'm speaking this from personal experience. I had such a limiting, fucked up life view for so long, and I still have limiting views
Mm.
all the time. And I have people in my life that point them out to me like, hey, dude, that view fucking sucks. Like, you need to shift it. Like, I'll say something. For example, my boss, he's like, I wouldn't look at it that way because that's going to cause these problems. I'm like, oh my God, you're totally right. I see that now. Okay.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And like, it's so funny so that because Tyler tells me that all the time. And like, this is the first relationship I've had where like my significant other like calls me out of love for things when I'm like, he's like, hey, like, you're kind of thinking about this way. Like, how about you look at it in this perspective? And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It's not personal to me. Like, cause I, was the same where I was like, everything I do is like taken personally. I'm like, why does this person hate me? And it's like, they don't hate me. They just said that they just didn't want to do the program. I'm like, okay, so it's nothing personal, like something like that, and that's helped me a lot, in just like the past year of just figuring that out of like, oh, it's not always just about me kind of thing. And like, that's, yeah, I don't know where else I was going with that, but just to agree with, yeah, you need people that are going to call you out.
Yeah. And that's the part of coaching I love. Because I mean, here's the thing, you guys, like yes, coaching is really valuable as far as the training and nutrition. There's really good programming and really bad programming for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's not rocket science that much. It's like, hey, we're eating good, healthy food. We have a structure here. We're eating the right balance of macronutrients. And then are you training so hard that you're waddling out of the gym, right? Or crawling out of the gym? That's really what we're doing here. But I love so much like those kinds of conversations with clients. Because don't hear me wrong, guys. Like the ones that have trouble with this, that doesn't annoy me. That excites me. And the ones that already got it, I'm like, hell yeah. They're just a couple steps ahead in that side of the game, right? Doesn't mean they don't have their own stuff. Everybody has stuff. That's just not their battle to be fought. You know what I mean? The anxiety and the stress, that's not their battle. They have something else. Everybody has a dragon to slay. And I love getting into that because that's just where so much growth can happen. And I love it because I've seen what it's done in myself. And when I see people starting to kind of turn their lives around a little bit by little bit, once they start kind of seeing it and their work life gets better, they're putting themselves, they're aligning themselves with better people, their relationships are improving, or they're maybe stepping a little bit away from relationships that weren't so great for them, like maybe keeping them at an arm's length a little bit and owning who they are, being authentic to who they are, not being afraid of that, and like just letting all that come out. By nature, their bodybuilding or fitness or weight loss journey is going to be phenomenal if they just start doing those things. Because how could it not be?
Yep.
If you're doing all of that, how could the rest of it not start to fall into place? Of course it will. And that's the shit I love more than anything.
Yep. That's where it's like, I'm doing everything right, but I don't know why nothing's happening. It's because all the rest of that stuff is what's happening. And like, you could be eating healthy, you could be doing the training, but that's probably why you're not losing weight, because there's all these stressors and all these other things in your life that are standing in your way.
Yeah. And that's where I'm like, let's talk about you. Like what? I'm like, tell me about you. Yeah. And some people like, they don't want to get super detailed, and that's okay. Like, I'm here to coach you in a capacity that works. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody needs that. And that's totally fine. I'm not like trying to get anyone's business, but if there's something going on, I'm like, we got to dig into it, man. Like, I love that shit so much. Like just getting to the root of people, like getting in someone's world and seeing like, just opening their eyes, like, hey, there's another way to look at that. Try it on, see how you like it. If you don't like it, don't try it on again. But
Carolyn, any words of wisdom?
You said it all. I was like, no, and that's the thing too, is that not everyone's, like we said, not everyone's always going to talk about it, but it's really not until they take a step back and realize, hey, maybe we're stressing out about the wrong things here. And instead it's just simply about taking off the checklist. Like, have you hit your food? Have you hit your water? And just treat it as that, not being like, oh, I have to go do my cardio. I have to do 30 minutes incline walking. Okay. Like when that mind is just like, looks at like this massive hill when really it's just a part of the training. It's a part of the list. Don't look at it as a massive hill you have to climb. It's just simply a part of your day. And I think you can enjoy it a lot more. And then there's also so many other ways. Like you can always look at the plan and being like, hey, I'm just getting kind of frustrated, or I need a change of pace. Then, hey, do that, take that break when you need it, when you really need that physical break. But more times than not, it's just your perception that needs to change.
Yeah, perception's huge.
Oh, and get hobbies, please, for God's sake.
What was that?
Get other hobbies besides
yes.
Please do something outside of the gym. Dogs, or coloring, or learn a language, travel some more. I always actually find myself
Love baking.
I will say actually traveling keeps me more on point because I have no other option.
Yeah, you're like, it's one way or the other. You guys would hate me. I'm like the worst poster child for that. Because people ask me, so it's like, what else do you do? Because like, for those that don't know, I have a full-time job. I coach anywhere from like 15 to 20 people at a time. And then I also have my own bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is my hobby. People are like, so what else do you do? And I'm like, what else is there? I think it's like,
they're like, oh, Amanda, you live in Colorado. You must go like skiing or something. And it's like,
never. Not one fucking time, you guys. Do I go on hikes? Hell no. I don't like hiking. I like the view. Now, granted, I've done hiking. I've done it. I've done the backpacking. I'm so good for life. I'm good. But Carolyn, I totally agree with what you're saying. And that if it's becoming like a fixation in an unhealthy way, like they're obsessing over it, and that, like, you know what I mean? And it's not, it's taking away from other areas
That's
of their
what I mean.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. And that's such a good point.
And I was in that place. Gosh, it was from 2013 until 2017, 2018. It was my only, I wouldn't go out. I just focused on training, just focusing at home, not. And the thing is too, I'm so mad at myself, you know, now looking back, because I was in California. I was like, there is so much to do out there. And like now, like whenever I go back, I'm like, I don't have enough time to do everything. You know, yeah, I wouldn't live there now, but I would say like from looking back, I did restrict my lifestyle simply because my mind was not in a place to be comfortable going out doing other things besides bodybuilding. And that sucks because I
And
can't
I
get
think, and I think we all kind of go through that phase with bodybuilding. You know, we get really serious and excited about it. And like, I definitely was there too, where I look back and I'm like, yeah, I was probably a little bit like a little too gung ho about this for a little bit, you know, where like I really didn't need to like have all of my food with me and I would have been just fine. And like, but I feel like you kind of have to go and like hit rock bottom with it and like go through those experiences to understand and to realize that like, oh, I can do this and still do bodybuilding. Like it's fine, you know, and like it just is what it is. So some people get lost in that. Some people figure it out. Some people realize that they just don't want to do it, and that's fine too. Because like we've said before, bodybuilding is not for everybody. So it's a very hard way to balance it because there is no actual balance. You just have to figure out how to manage it, I guess is probably a better word than balance it. Because
Yeah,
yeah.
and I would say it was the reason I changed around that 2018 time period was because it was my coach at the time who said, you need to find another hobby because you're going insane. Like
Mm-hmm.
blank, he was like, you need to do something else because it's not going to be what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And I was so mad at him. I was like, fuck you. I don't know. I don't, what am I going to do? Play golf? Like, I was like, I don't know any other sports. Like, what do I do? I don't know anybody in the city that I was in. And now I have a hobby that took over my life, and it's kind of a problem now.
Yeah.
Is it though? You love it. It makes you
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like,
It's expensive.
yeah. And I know, but it's so badass. Like, guys, if you don't follow Carolyn, you should go on her Instagram and look at all her badass, like nighttime shoots, like gun shoots. Um, it's fucking killer, dude. I'm so inspired by you because I'm like, that is so badass. Like I'm in full support of it. And you know what? If you do it compulsively, if it makes you happy and only brings good things to your life, and you're meeting all these cool people in that community, why the hell not? It's like for me, bodybuilding and going to the gym, like I am so obsessed with bodybuilding, you guys. It's absurd, but it makes me so happy. And I love talking about it, thinking about it, reading about it. Like when I'm not in the gym or working my other job, I am thinking, eating, sleeping, breathing bodybuilding. I wake up at night dreaming about my girls' routines. I swear to fucking God. And I wouldn't have it any other way because I love it. I love my own bodybuilding. I love my clients. I love my clients that don't compete, but they just are in the gym building a body. It's still bodybuilding. They just don't compete. I love learning about it. Like it is what I like to do. And I had to learn to get comfortable with the fact that like, that may be like really weird to some people and seem extreme, but that's just what makes me happy. And I like living that extreme. And if at the point in time it's becoming detrimental to me, like, yes, reevaluate. But I was talking to my boss about it because he's the same way. Like he, you know, obviously owns the company I work for, and he's very entrepreneurial minded, and he's listening to podcasts and reading constantly. And people are stuff like, dude, aren't you gonna like go do like have some fun, do something else? And he's like, but I'm having fun pouring myself into my business. Like that's what I love. Just like, you know, Carolyn, you will always love bodybuilding at heart, but it's done a world of wonder for you to pour yourself into something else and get into shooting in that community. And at the point in time that I feel that way, I will absolutely go find something. You know what I mean? It's like, but I think it's totally okay to pour yourself into something or two things. You know what I mean? If it makes you happy and it's bringing you good things in your life.
Yep.
So
I've definitely, go ahead, Carolyn, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah. No, I'm just adding on to it's like when it becomes no other option where your friends and your family are noticing that you're just hyperfix into an unhealthy manner, then that's where, yes, that's when my coach came out and he was like, you need to find something else because you're going down a rabbit hole. Like you're become like
It was
once,
stressing you out.
Yeah.
dude, yeah, and especially when you get stressed out and you're not able to live like a normal human, being able to follow your plan, but then also just being able to take off the brakes. Because once I find something that I really love, I just obsess about it. It's like an autism. I don't know what I know we're throwing around that word all the time, but like I'm using it jokingly. Disclaimer, it's autism.
Everyone's fine. They're fine. People can
Don't get offended, everybody.
I know,
literally,
right?
yeah, fuck
It really becomes like a hyperfixation, like bodybuilding for all three of us, where we found the sport and we wanted to learn everything and anything there is about it. Who's in it? Who's the best of the best? Who can we learn from? What podcasts do we need to listen to? What books do we need to read? And then the same thing was shooting. As soon as I found the right people in the community, because that's also very hard to find too, from who to learn from so that I can be a really good shooter, then you continue accelerating from there. And I can say full heartedly, like from the year alone, I know who to go to and who not to go to, because there's some bad bugs in the industry, like in all things, but then there's also some really, really good ones. Most of them are really, really good, but you have to know who to go to from who you learn from. And that's in any industry for sure.
yeah.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to pour yourself into something, guys. Like,
Especially if people give you shit for it. Like I got shit for it a lot when I started bodybuilding. Like I dated somebody when I first started, like from high school, and then I got into bodybuilding, and like I would start eating healthy again. I didn't really know better, so I would kind of go off and then back onto it. And he'd make comments and be like, "Oh, so you're doing that thing again?" And like, I'm like, "Yeah." And like, I was such a people pleaser that I was like, well, am I not supposed to? Like, is this gonna make you mad if I don't? And then I started to realize that like, no, I like this. Like, what's wrong with eating healthy? You know, why do I have to like go to these things and like have a burger every time I go? Like, because everybody else is. Like, that doesn't serve me. And so it took me some time to kind of get through that. But like since I started bodybuilding and I got into it, I got obsessed with it too, like just like you guys did. And I went to that unhealthy place where it was like I had anxiety about food. I had, you know, where I was like, I know I need to eat my meals, and like I can't have this like turkey instead of chicken because like God forbid, you know, and like my family would make notes of that and be like, you know, Kayla, I think it's a little unhealthy that you're doing it this way. And at the time I was like, no, I'm fine, like blah blah blah. Like I was too lean, whatever. But now looking back at that, I can see where that happened. And like now I'm a little more relaxed at it. But at the same time, I'm not going to give it up. Like if I'm, you know, I know how to adjust for those things now, but at the same time, like my family doesn't work out and my family doesn't do any of that stuff. And so, you know, I get comments here and there about it and stuff, but I'm like, it's okay if you don't understand it. Like I'm still going to do it. You know, like people don't have to understand the why. And most often with bodybuilding, they won't, because it's, people are like, why would you do that to yourself? And it's like, well, like I enjoy it. I like to suffer a little bit. So yeah, I guess pick your poison, you know? And so you just have to learn how to just not give a fuck, really.
literally. Yeah. And the other thing is too, is if you're obsessed with something for years and years and all of a sudden you just want to switch it up, you can do that. And people be like, well, I thought you were doing, yeah. Kayla said, it's just, you just have to not give a fuck. You really do. Cause I mean, everyone that's competed have had a family member, a friend that usually not coming from a bad place. They're just like concerned because they're just not used to that. Like they're not used to seeing someone put in that kind of intensity towards something. And it's not that they're trying to like dim your light or anything. They just don't understand it. And that's why it's explaining it to them and just understanding that different stuff makes different people happy. And I don't really like balance. I like extremes.
Mhm.
When I feel like when I'm in balance in a sense, and by balance, I mean pouring into a lot of things equally. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I think of balance is like, you're giving a lot of things that are important to you. Well, I guess not important to you, but you're giving a lot of things your time and you're not doing anything like 100%. You're doing a lot of things at like 50 or 70%. I feel very unhappy doing that. Like I feel very like I'm just kind of treading water, like I'm not going anywhere. And
Mhm.
if I'm going to do something, I want to be seeing tangible progress every week, every month. And that progress looks different and for different people, but whether it's strength or muscle growth or just mastering my lifts, continuing to work to master my movements, or just being a better coach, being a better leader in my company. Like, I need to see that tangible progression. I can't just kind of stay in the same place. That makes me really unhappy. Whereas other people, they love just kind of the calmness and the peace with just kind of doing a few things and enjoying it and giving their time to a lot of different things. Like, they like to enjoy a lot of different things. And I think that's fantastic. You know what I mean? I don't like operating that way. I like I've got 3 things in my life: work, coaching, Dan.
Yep.
And you guys, but you guys are like, you're like with Dan.
And the dog.
It's like Dan and then like us.
Oh yeah, the dog.
Yep, I agree. So, just don't be average.
Yeah.
Average is boring.
Yeah.
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 Just
Listen to Disney, touch some grass. Feels good.
And there's our words of wisdom for the night.
wait, what did you say?
Oh,
Cut
no.
some grass? What did you say?
Yeah. Dance, listen to music, like Disney.
Oh, I didn't hear the first part. I just heard cut some grass. I was like,
That's why I was like, okay.
that actually sounds kind of peaceful. Like, just like on a mower, like me, just like music and making those lines. That would be kind of therapeutic, I feel like.
It
I used to
really
do it
is.
all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah, the
Oh,
John Deere.
like drawing the lines in those little like baby sandboxes with a little rake, and you can like draw lines on it. I feel like I could zen out to that shit for like 20 minutes a day.
I'm just like,
I will get you a mini Zen so you can have a little like rake.
Yeah, the rake, the zen rake.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
One of those little mini ones. Yeah.
yes, I
Those
love
are
that.
gross.
I like, yeah, like organizing my spices, like things like that. I'm just like, I'm here for that.
The spices, yes. Like everyone has its spot. Each like I have
Yeah.
like a door hanger thingy, and I'm like each one is a category, right? So
Yes.
like Italian seasonings, and then it's like Greek seasonings, and then like peppers, and I'm like, I
Okay,
don't know why
Kayla,
I do that. I just like it.
I'm getting you a label maker for Christmas. Done.
Yes.
The little things in life. All
Next
right.
time.
Well, I gotta get going, guys.
Okay.
I'm sure you guys too, but we will talk to you later. I hope everyone that listens got something out of this. So we covered a lot today.
Sorry for rambling so much, you guys, but I'm kind of a rambler. So
Well,
you'll have to
for the rambles.
take some of that shit for what it is, throw out the part that didn't make any sense.
Just
And
filter
after we
it out.
stop recording, I need to ask about schedule real quick.
Yes.
Okay, I will stop it. Ready? Okay, bye.
Bye.